the Latina Leadership Podcast, the podcast made for Latinas by Latinas, with Angelica Cázares, Carolina Arenas, Diana Ruby, Jacqueline Villagomez, and Sonia Ramirez. Get comfortable, amiga, and enjoy the conversations.
Welcome to the Latina Leadership Podcast. Today, we are your co-hosts. My name is Carolina Arenas, and
I am Diana Ruby.
And thank you for joining us. Today, we are having amazing guests. Brenda and Patricia Boral are sisters, entrepreneurs, and co-founders of the Boral Agency, a marketing agency located in Houston, Texas. And they want to help other entrepreneurs see that it is possible to live your dream and follow your passion. And today we have here Miss Patricia Boral, who has joined us and will be talking to us about major topics, but you are the representative today. So we will let your sister in on everything that we do, but thank you for your time.
Of course,
So
thank you for
Patricia,
having me.
yes. So una preguntita. Take us back to the moment you and your sister decided to start the business. What was that like for you, and what did it mean for both of you?
So it's funny you asked that. So when we started the business, Brenda was coming out of another business. Like she had another marketing, and it was more like events company that didn't work out quite well because she had another partner. And I was coming out of a job that I was like, you know what, I'm done. I quit. I want to start my business. And I literally went to Brenda. I'm like, Brenda, let's start this. Because I did something similar back home in Bolivia, where I'm originally from. And that business, was working great and it's still running until today. But it's more like marketing and branding, really. It's really branding, right? So I came with the idea of like, it works, let's do it. And Brenda was like, no, I don't want to, fight with you or whatever, because she didn't have like a good partnership at the end. But eventually we were both like, you know what? Okay, let's sit down. And I think it was the best situation for both of us, because Brenda had, had a good experience. She had a bad experience. So she was like, okay, yeah, it could go great, but it also could go not so great. So let's put some parameters. Let's sit down, write down an operating agreement. Yeah, two sisters writing down how much vacation we can take, who's going to do what's going to happen if, whatever, different scenarios that we play ourselves. And we wrote everything down. And I think that's been like our secret to the success on our relationship, because a lot of people ask, oh, you're sisters? Don't you fight? And I'm like, well, in a business, you have arguments like in anything, right? Like when you don't agree with a coworker. But because we have this operating agreement, at the end, I could say, okay, this falls under you, or she will say this falls under you. So ultimately, you have the last call, right? So it has helped us a lot. It's been great.
And how old are you guys when you decided to start?
I was 26.
Oh, you're young.
25, 26. And Brenda was 5 years older, so 31.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I really like to hear that you all put like boundaries or parameters around what the work would look like, because that was going to be one of my questions of like, how did you all decide, that you wanted to work together first, and then second, like, how do you create kind of that separation between like your sisterly relationship and now a business relationship?
Yes, I mean, I think again that was really the best decision we made, because when we started the business, I wanted to run the business with all of my siblings. We're 4. So, but my 2 brothers were like, nah, I don't want to do business with you. And Brenda took some convincing, like I said, right? So that's why she came up with this idea. And honestly, it worked out very well, because it doesn't mean that it's not going to change, right? Because as time progressed, we have revisited and we're like, okay, let's update our operating agreement. And like recently, we updated it again, because I always took care of more of the operation side. She took care more of the networking and sales side of the business. So now my operation side is running, like a well-oiled machine, right? Like it's like I don't have to be working in it so much. And I have a great team that we can trust. We have all the systems in place, all the processes written down. So the quality of our services is great, and you can see it in our reviews. So I don't have to be working in it. So now we just review it again because I'm gonna take over some sales, um, like responsibilities, I guess, which is exciting because that's new to me.
Yeah, learning how to delegate. I think it's something we all have to learn how to do. So being a Latina entrepreneur, something that I like to ask a lot is, so for your roots, right? Lo
Mhm.
que es Bolivia, your heritage, how does that play into your business or the decision of Brenda and Patricia creating your own business? Or like what role does it play, if
So I
any?
believe we have some positives and we have some negatives, right? Like for me at the beginning, one of the negatives was like, and for Brenda, I feel like probably the same, right? I don't want to talk for her, but for me specifically, having an accent, right? Like going to a networking and people, hi, I'm Patricia and I do this and that. And people, instead of like engaging in the conversation, they will answer with like, oh, I hear an accent. Where are you from? And I'm like,
Mm.
like I will feel terrible and I felt like very sad. I even took some accent reduction classes,
Oh
and
no.
Mm.
because that's how like self-conscious I was about it. And I feel being a not only being a Latina, because you could be a Latina that was born here, grew up here, but you have that heritage. For me, it was more being an immigrant, right? People will ask me, how long have you been here? How long have you owned your business? Like things like that, that I always took it as a negative. But then, being in the business for so long and meeting people in the same boat as me made me realize that, well, maybe they were just curious, right? Because it's like someone, wow, an accent. So changing that perspective helped me not see it as a negative, but instead as a positive, like, hey, I bring a different perspective into your business, right? Like in my country, in Bolivia, and as you know, in any like Latin America country, you don't have everything done so well like it is here in the States, right? Everything is standardized, everything is already set, somebody already worked on that. So over there you have to really use your creative thinking to solve problems that don't have a solution yet. So that habit of doing that, it's something that I think really sets us apart. So when we work with a client, we don't stop until they get results. And we bring those different like perspective and creative thinking to solve their problem, right? Because there's so many agencies that do marketing and they do great marketing, but what sets us apart, right? So we use that like our Latina heritage, our background, growing up in a different country where we didn't have all the resources, we bring that and use that as a strength.
Mm. And I think one of the most kind of like valuable qualities in leaders is that being able to have a perspective shift. And so I wonder, like, how did you learn how to do that? Was it did it take a lot of work, or what came about that, and how did that happen?
Well, I think in my case, I learned how to do that very early on in my life,
Mm.
simply because if you know a little bit of our story, right, we lost our mom. I was 12 years old when that happened. My father left basically the family. He had another, the typical Latino, right? He had a hidden family that nobody knew about. Then he came out with it, and it was like also confusing. So instead of, taking the role of why is this happening to me, and feeling a victim, I kind of like, because I mean, that really drags you down, right? And when you have to really stand up and go and work because otherwise you're not eating the next day, right? That was our situation. I was like, why
Mm.
is this happening to me? But in a perspective of, what can I learn from this? What can I do now? Right? So I started like always asking myself more and digging a little bit more. instead of just kind of like giving up and be like, oh, always think bad things happen. But instead it's like, oh, what can I learn from this? How can I use this? And that drove me to even like take classes that obviously helped me a lot now. Like I took accounting classes when I was 14, and HR classes when I was like that age, because I was like really
Wow.
trying to understand. And
Yeah.
it is because of that I chose marketing as my career, because my mom had an after school program and we were losing clients like left and right? Every year we had less renewals on their contracts. And I was like, why are we losing, right? Oh, okay, must be an accounting. Like, you're a kid, right? An accounting problem, which is, for me, was not accounting, but it was like, I need to know how to like do the numbers, right? So that's how I took those classes. And then finally I realized, if you're not bringing in new clients, you know, how are you going to keep your business? So it's kind of like accepting that. And, I chose marketing and I love it. Like, it's my passion. So something good came out of that. But I think the perspective shift, it really is kind of like taking responsibility on your own mind. Things are going to happen. Life is not perfect and it's not meant to be perfect. Life is meant to be, full of different challenges. Think of it as playing a video game. How boring will be to play a video game where you don't have to learn how to jump and have to like go through the different obstacles, right? There will be no business. Life is kind of like the same way. You're going to have these different obstacles, and maybe you can learn like some secret, formulas to like hack the game, or you can find the ways to really learn how to go over those obstacles. And sometimes we have to go over the same thing over and over until we learn our lessons. So the faster we take that ownership and be like, okay, this happened. I have like, okay, this is my situation. What can I learn from this? How can I make this different?
It's a lot to take in. I'm just thinking about how fast you had to grow up, or you or your sisters. You said you had four siblings. So are you the middle child, the older, the younger? The
Yeah,
second.
technically the middle, but I share it with my other brother.
So then how did you guys decide to come to the States from Bolivia?
So we were all citizens, and my mom was actually she wanted to move back to New York, actually. So we moved back to Bolivia. Yeah, I love New York. I lived there for a year. So my dad wanted to raise his children basically in Bolivia, and that's how we ended up over there. But we all had our citizenship, and my mom, before passing away, she renewed all her passports. So I think she found out about my father. So she wanted to basically divorce him and move back to the States. And then she passed away. So we actually went to the embassy because we had, our papers and everything, and they were going to put us in the foster care system. And at first we were excited, right? Because great, we don't have to worry about anything. But of course, they told us, okay, great, we found a home for you, and then another one for you too, and another one for you. And we were like, wait, no, we can't be split up. So that's when we basically kind of like went MIA from the embassy. And we were very blessed to, if you think about it, we were very blessed to be in a country where we were able to do that. Because if we were here in the States, we wouldn't have that choice.
No, not at all.
That period. So our future would have been very different. So once Brenda turned 18, because she was 17 when my mom passed away, so we had to wait like 6 to 8 months, and she had to get what is it called, like legal guardianship of us. Now with that, we were able to stay, and we were not worried that the embassy was going to come and take us, basically. Which is also the reason why I have right now a passion. And I used to, like, whenever, we were going through all of that, I will pray to God and say, like, God, I promise you I'm going to help, orphans and fosters so they don't have to go through these alone like we are, because we had no other choice. We didn't want to be split up, right? So that's why now I'm supporting the foster care communities so much.
Oh, that's amazing. And again, I asked that question simply because you could have chosen to start your business and stay in Bolivia, right? So I just wanted to see, what made you guys decide to come to the States. And then again, that decision in and of itself is huge, right? You're
Mhm.
leaving what you know to come to a country where everything is completely different. So again, I admire that from you, and thank you for taking that leap of faith for you and your siblings.
Thank you.
So again, I just feel like a lot of what you're sharing with us applies to how you guys are leading your business. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, and for us, I think the decision was kind of like it's not a matter of should we move there, is it a good choice, but kind of like when are we moving there?
Mm.
So we knew we were moving. Like I moved to New York when I was 19 to get my degree there. But because I already took so many business classes,
Yeah, you were pesada preparada.
no, I was like taking college classes and I was like, this is so boring. I
She's like, I
can't.
could teach
I
this
can
class
do
for
business
free.
already. So I went back to Bolivia and got my degree there because the university works a little bit different. Um, so Brenda actually moved first, and that's how we chose Houston because
Mm.
her husband took a job at an oil and gas company. So because we were all citizens, right? Like, so she basically got him papers and he started looking for jobs here in the States because the opportunities are much larger than in Bolivia.
Mhm.
And at that time, my youngest brother was still very young. He was like 15, 16. So Brenda moved first. And then when he turned 17, he moved. Then my other brother moved. And then, because I was still finishing my career, because I made the decision of coming back to Bolivia. And then I was the last one to move, basically.
Oh, oh wow.
And we chose
Nice.
Houston basically because Brenda was here first.
It's her fault.
And and honestly, when I was moving, it was 2008, so I was already reading
Mm.
about the recession, and I was like, okay, is
Yeah.
this a really good economy? And I read a lot about the economy of because I had like New York was always like in my heart. I was like, I want to go back to New York. But when I read the economy compared to Houston, Houston has a stronger economy, in my opinion, and I'm
Mm.
glad I made that decision.
That's awesome. Pati, I'm so curious about your sibling relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, I think it's very beautiful to like witness, being able to go in business together means that you all probably have a really strong relationship. So I'm curious, like, was it always like this growing up? Did you all have a very close relationship growing up? What did that look like? And then, or has it changed now that you're in business together?
So I feel as a person you change because you're growing and that makes your relationships change, right? Because when we were younger, Brenda, when before everything happened, when we were kids, we were just kids, and my gap with Brenda is a 5 year gap. So now it's great because you don't feel the gap as when you grow older. But back then, compare like if she was 10, I was 5. So I was messing
Yeah,
with all
yeah.
her things. When she was 15, I was 10. I was putting on her makeup and stuff like that, and she hated it.
Yeah.
So during those years we didn't really have that bonding. So at first,
Mm.
for a little bit, but then there was always this gap. So I was closer to my brothers because my brother, we are like 11 months apart, so I was very close to him. And then my youngest brother is also 5 years, but I had two cousins like in between, so it was like you know me, my brother, my cousin, like 1 more year, 2 years, and then my brother. So it was like we were like this little gang, the typical tomboy myself.
I love that.
And Brenda was more with my other cousins that were older, and they were all women, and it was completely different. So growing up, we weren't like as close as we are now, and because of the age gap, because we couldn't really play together, right? And then when my mom passed away, that's when we really developed the work relationship, I feel like, because she was going to the university all day and working, because that's how she was able to pay for her education. And then I will stay home and basically run the house and run the business and make sure everybody eats and make sure that all of those things. But she will basically in the mornings tell me, okay, today, like she will tell me what to do, like today you have to pay these bills, go buy these things, do all of these. So she will give me kind of like my to do, and I was like, yay, I'm on a quest, let's do it, right? um So our relationship was more like that. And then I think running the business together, because we were able to like really set good boundaries,
Mhm.
we were able to, because I'm very strict, I guess, disciplined in terms of balancing my life and work. And I think it's because I saw my mom. She passed away. She was 42. She was so young.
That's young.
And I remember she will say things like, "Oh, we're gonna take this trip, but when this and this happen," or blah, blah. So she will
Mhm.
postpone a lot of things in her life, and she worked really hard. So I always have that mentality of like, I don't want to have that fate. I don't want to die not leaving the things that I wanted to do, because at the end of the day, you are gone, right?
Yeah, no se lleva nada uno. So.
Yeah, nothing. You don't take anything. So
Mhm.
I decided to have that discipline of, I work, but to live a full life, not the other way around.
Right.
So because I brought that in and Brenda brought the other stuff, like we made a good mix. So allow us to talk work at work. And when we have like our weekends, we can be sisters and be family and, enjoy that. Right. And whenever like us, it happens when you're a business owner. Oh my God, I thought about this idea. And I'm like, okay, send me a message to our group chat, like our work chat, and we'll talk about it Monday.
Yes, I love that.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
So
I think
are
that.
there any
Mhm.
skills or like tips that you would give an entrepreneur for that balanced work life?
I think you have to remember your why, right?
Mm.
A lot of times we forget that we want to be entrepreneurs because we want freedom of our time. We want to be choosing our stuff. So remember why you started the business, why you're doing it, because sometimes we feel like we have to do this, that we have to finish this, that we have to do it. So that becomes like a lack mentality, that I'm missing something, I haven't finished, I'm missing something, I have to finish. But instead, if you have like an abundance, like, all the things are
Mm.
coming. If you have that mentality, then you can kind of like stop and be like, no, I did what I needed to do today, and tomorrow is going to be another day. Now I need to spend time with my family. Now I need to kind of like reap the reward, so I don't have to wait so long.
One of the things that really stood out to me about the Boral Agency is within your values, you guys have gratitude and determination. And those really stood out. And so I'm wondering if you can kind of share, how did you set the tone for that? And how does that show up in your like projects and in your work?
So determination for us is because there's no the word impossible doesn't exist in my vocabulary, right? It's kind of like I was not supposed to be here, right? Like if you really, if I tell you all the things that we went through, like the fact that we are here, it's amazing. The fact that I'm able to stay, like I'm running a business. I mean, so if somebody comes to me and say like, oh, I've tried marketing, I've tried these tactics, and it doesn't work, I'm like, yeah, it does work. We have to just find a way. We just haven't
Mm.
seen. So that determination of no, I'm gonna find an answer. I'm gonna find results for you. We bring that because it's like ingrained in me. And in my business with my team, whenever we're having like team buildings or our weekly like team meetings, we always talk about like asking. It's that it really is on the questions, right? Like how are you gonna make this? What results are you bringing to the customer? And reminding them we are here to solve problems, right? We're not a marketing agency just to do a cute website because that doesn't bring you results. We are here to bring results to our clients. So reminding them that makes them also take that T-shirt and putting that on. And for me, gratitude is like I feel that has to be part of your life because I may not wake up tomorrow, so I'm grateful that I'm here today, right? Like, and I think it's because I had such a close encounter with death that I can see how I guess delicate life can be, how quickly your life can change, you know, like tomorrow your life can change completely for the good and for the bad because I've seen both sides, right? Like one opportunity, meeting one more connection that can open doors for you that you can never ever imagine. It could happen only because you made the decision of going to that event or because you made the decision of calling that person, right? Your life can truly change
Mm.
uh, very, very quickly. So you have to be grateful for all the opportunities that you have in front of you.
I'm left with the gratitude part. I think that's something we always talk about, just being, o sea, like lo malo y lo bueno, but thankful that it happened.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're not sure, right, of why those things happen, but there's always a reason behind it. Um,
Yeah, and I feel like we sometimes forget like all the great things that you have, right? Like if you think about it, like I'm healthy. Gosh, I'm grateful that I'm healthy. I'm grateful that I'm in a living in a time where I'm not repressed like other women were repressed back in the day, right? Where I
mhm.
don't have to wear a corset now.
Yeah,
Where we have so
that's
much
real.
ease of things. So and also grateful of the knowledge that you're able to bring, of the experiences that you're able to go through, because like imagine if you know, if even if I had a disability, my life would be like 10 times, 100 times harder than what it is. So be grateful because you are able to do things too, you
Mm.
know.
So, with that being said, right, what obstacles have you experienced though as an agency?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then how did you overcome maybe that one or two obstacle that were huge to maybe the change of your agency or that helped your agency?
So for me, I feel like the biggest obstacle was mindset, right? Like thinking that, oh, I can do this in another country,
Yeah.
right? With another language, without connections, because I didn't go to school here, right? I didn't go to college here. I literally had nothing, like no connections whatsoever. So how can I do that? And but believing that you can do it, or believing that you have to settle with
Mm.
breadcrumbs, right? Like with small things. And that's kind of how we started, right? Like at first, we were doing mostly like promotional products, like we didn't have the confidence of telling business owners, no, this is how you should do your marketing, right? And then realizing that, wait, no, we do have those skills, we're able to do it, we've done it, right? So changing that mindset inside of you, I think that was my biggest struggle, because you can have a great business, but only if you believe that you can have a great business. uh,
Mm.
that was really the biggest obstacle, and it's an obstacle that it's kind of like a never-ending like staircase.
Roller
I
coaster.
feel like, yeah, because now it's like, okay, wow, I can do this, but no, but I cannot do that. And I'm like, no, wait, why? Like, and it's
Mm.
always like something like that is always kind of like holding you a little bit. So it's like always having that mentality of looking or paying attention to your thoughts.
Mm.
So I feel that was one, that's a big obstacle that I face every day as well. And then the next obstacle, I feel like it was um, making the shift to like saying no to sometimes to some clients or prospects, because I feel like sometimes as business owners or
You
as
want to take
entrepreneurs,
everybody in.
exactly. So saying no sometimes it's kind of like it's a big step for me, right? That was a big step for us. And we made that change, and I remember it perfectly during Harvey, because for me, Harvey was
Mm.
really hard when we lost so many clients because they were too tiny. And we had like 40 accounts, and they were all small accounts. So that was really difficult for me to learn and say, like, we can run a profitable business if we have these tiny accounts where we were like really putting fires all the time. And when Harvey happened, we lost half of them. And I was like, okay, this is like a huge sign, like, okay, we have to change our business model. And we started saying no, and now our business, it's growing great.
And I know you all have been, Boral Agency has been in business for over a decade now. And so I'm wondering, for women out there, immigrant women, Latina women who are like just at the brink of ready to start their own entrepreneurship journey? What's a valuable piece of information or advice that you've received that you would like to share with them?
Okay, so for Latina women that are trying to start their new business, but they're still working for another company, let's say.
Yeah, maybe they're like right at the edge. They've been thinking about it for months now, and they're just right there. Yeah.
Okay, so what I would say is like make a plan. Don't just jump ship because you have this great idea. Take, like, let's say every Saturday morning is your new job to actually work on your idea, right? And be disciplined to do that. Work on the numbers, find mentors, right? Or a business coach, even better, if you want to expedite the time. And plan 1 year. Start running your business on the side, because if you start running your business on the side, you're going to start getting clients. So when you jump ship, now you have income coming in and you're not going to be desperate for just any client, right? So make sure that you have like some savings, but you also have that kind of like already experience, because typically the first 2 years of a business you are forming, it's kind of like a baby, right? A baby will fall many times to learn how to walk. The same for a business, right? So you're going to be shifting a lot of things. Sometimes we fall in love with our idea and our product, but then the market is telling us, no, no, we don't like that. So you have to be able to change that and change your business idea and not get too attached to that product, but instead get attached to the type of customer you want and then mold your product to that customer. Now, if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur that, doesn't have a job and wants to start a business, I would recommend even get a job, at a Starbucks or something. If you don't have any income, just do something that's going to allow you to have income, because the worst mistake I feel that you can make as an entrepreneur is being too desperate for like money, basically. Which a lot of people say that hunger is great, right? But I honestly disagree, because sometimes that leads you to take wrong decisions or taking the wrong client, right?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, that's true. Because like, let's say if I'm selling a product,
Yes,
I'm going to be very pushy,
yes,
and then customers are probably going to not want to work with me. And then, like you said, if I'm in marketing, I'm going to accept everybody, and not all companies might align with your mission or what you stand for. So those are good. I'm writing those down for sure.
I did want to ask you, I wanted to ask both of you, but so Pati, that I have you, what is the leadership quality that you admire the most of your sister? And then I would also just ask you if you can add in there like the leadership quality that you admire the most in yourself.
Okay. Well, those are great questions. So I think for my sister, the leadership quality that I admire the most from her is the resiliency, right? She's very resilient. So, like, not giving up for her is not, it's like giving up is not an option, right? So, I feel that that's a great quality in leadership, because if you bring that to a person, right, you're finding different angles for that person on how to work with them as well, right? How to inspire them, how to motivate them. And for me, never look for yourself. I have no idea what will be the leadership skill that I admire most for myself. Um,
I think your mindset.
Perhaps, yeah, my mindset, changing the perspective.
Mm,
And I think I'm really good at bringing that perspective to someone else, so they can start asking themselves those questions as well. Because I've seen that with my team. Like at first, like I will be involved on how to do the things and what questions, and now they come up with their own questions, and I'm like, and I love it, because sometimes there are questions that I didn't even think about. So,
that's awesome. Yeah, and honestly, you mentioned resiliency. I would say that's within you as well. Just listening to your story and the way that you all have kind of stuck as a unit to kind of move forward. I think resiliency runs through the Boral siblings.
Yeah.
So that's
It
beautiful.
definitely does.
Awesome, awesome. And so, this kind of goes in line with this. So, do you consider yourself a leader and why?
I think, yes, I consider myself a leader, right? But I think we all are leaders in some aspects in our lives, right? Because sometimes we have this idea that a leader is someone like running a multi-billion company, like, like Elon Musk or whatever. But a leader is someone that's able to inspire someone else, that is able to influence someone else. And if we lead a life where we all see ourselves as leaders, because first off, you are influencing yourself, right? So if you're influencing yourself, then you're already the leading your life, right? So and that's how you start influencing other people as well.
Wow, that was beautiful. I'm a snap for that. I love that. And then the final question, is there anything else that like we left out in asking you that you would like to share with our audience?
I think I would like to say leave fear behind, right? And I feel that it's so much easier to say it than do it, right? Which is, oh, duh, wow, what a cliche, right? But find ways of doing that. Try different things, right? Like, let's say, okay, today I'm going to try to, like, write it down in a little post-it. Okay, I'm afraid of doing this. I'm going to put it here. Maybe that physical, like, doing that will make me feel that I don't have that. Or perhaps writing down all, like, if you're the type of person who likes to do lists, do one list of pros and cons, right? All the possible scenarios. Like, work on that. Be able to identify, okay, I've been procrastinating. Why? It's because there's a fear that's blocking. Like the obstacles that you find in life is typically a fear. And sometimes we are not able to see it because we just get stuck, right? But if we really, really think about, okay, this is an obstacle, I'm not able to do this, or why? It's because I'm finding this too difficult. Okay, maybe let's make it smaller. And then, you start seeing like, why am I not taking this action? Because, I don't know if it happened to you ever, like you have this thing on your to-do list and it's been there forever.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, you're like, you know, why is that still there? So that it's unlocking that fear and understanding what's really holding you back.
I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of and that kind of goes back into the mindset. Like there's a lot of work to kind of be done there to remove that fear and shift your mindset.
Yeah, and I feel that a lot of times we, as humans, we like to justify things, right? So if my fear is like, oh, I'm not going to be able to actually sustain myself or make my salary if I start my business, and that's your fear because you don't believe it, or because nobody in your company, nobody in your family had a company, right, or run their own business, and you're like, oh no, this is not for me, or I don't have that mentality, right? Like if you unlock that fear, just like you're justifying the why not to feed that fear, justify the opposite, right? How many people have made it? There's others that have done it in worse conditions. How come they did it? Read about it, learn about it, like interview other people that have done it.
Yes. One of the things that I tell myself to kind of get myself out of the fear is no voy a ser ni la primera ni la última, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna be the first, I'm not gonna be the last. So just do it. Cool.
And for
Well,
me, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. For me, it's that. Like for me, it's like kind of like, what's the worst that can happen? And like life is like a little game. Like just have fun with it. Have fun. Like if the worst thing that could happen is that I lose everything, okay, I'll go get a job at a Starbucks. I'm not gonna. Like it's fine. And then I'll be learning how to make coffee.
Cool. All right. And can you tell us where can we find you? Where can we find Boral Agency? Yeah.
Yes, so, well, you can find us online, obviously, everywhere, right? We have our website, boralagency.com, or you can find us on Facebook, which is like, everything is at Boral Agency, right? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. and Instagram. And also, I have my own account, obviously, so you can link with me on Instagram or on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I post a video every week where I talk a little bit about marketing. So, yeah, definitely follow me on LinkedIn. Send me a message.
Very cool. Bueno,
Thank
Pati,
you so much.
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story, your resiliency story on the Latina Leadership Podcast. We'll see you next time.
What did you think of the conversation? If you enjoyed what you heard, let us know in the comments. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you for listening to the Latina Leadership Podcast, and we will see you next time.